بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Kitab al-Sawm of Al-Fiqh al-Istidlali by Sheikh Irwani Hafadahullah. As you remember, we talked about khuruj لحاجة عرفية. We said if there is no hajat urfi, something that according to common understanding is necessary, if there is no such a thing, then it's a problem. Then we said we have to discuss three claims. Number one, أنه لا فرق بين العالم والجاهل. It has been said that whether you knew that you should not go out except for reason, good reason, or you didn't know, they say it doesn't make difference. Number two, whether you remembered or you forgot, it's the same. أن الحكم بالبطلان يعم الناس. So when going out without hajat urfi is making i'tikaf void, it includes an-nasi, the one who forgets. The third claim is if you have to go for emergency or for ikrah, you are forced, then there is no problem. This is maybe the easiest because it falls under hajat urfi when you are mustar. الثالث أنه لا بطلان في حالة الاضطرار ونحوها, like إكراه, there is no بطلان. خب لا بد أولا من تحقيق حال الروايات المتقدمة الدالة على البطلان. If you want to evaluate these three claims, we need to study the condition of the previous hadith which indicated butlan al-khuruj bila hajatin. Okay, so that to see whether, for example, there is itlaq that includes jahil as well or nasi as well, or there is no itlaq, etc. فهل هي مطلقة تعم الجاهل والناسي والمكره ونحوهم. And then after question mark, the second option comes. Are those hadiths general, mutlaq? You know, we have two types of generality. One is itlaq, one is umum. Generality of itlaq is understood from muqaddamatul hikmah. Generality of umum is understood from alfaz, from terms which are like kol, jami, etc. خب, are those hadiths mutlaqatun? Are they mutlaq, general? Therefore they include jahil, nasi, al-mukrah, al-mustar, etc. Things like that. So يحتاج الحكم بالصحة في مورد إلى دليل خاص. If it says, the hadith which says that you cannot go without haja outside, and if you go out your i'tikaf becomes void, if it is mutlaq and includes all these cases, then we have to assume your i'tikaf becomes void unless proved otherwise, unless there is a specific dalil that says for this, if you go out, it's okay. So if hadith, I repeat, if hadith that say going out without haja are general, So if you forget and go out without hajat, or if you didn't know the hukm and go out without hajat urfi, the itlaq includes such cases and i'tikaf becomes void. The only thing that can be sahih without hajat is we have a specific reason to say this is not under itlaq. Okay? So this is one option, one view, one position. أو أنها تدل على البطلان في الجملة لا بالجملة. The other position that one may hold is that there is no itlaq. These hadiths say there is butlan for going out without hajat urfi fil jumla, not bil jumla. There is no umum that every case, unless proved otherwise. No, it's a sum of the cases. Therefore, you have to go for qadr mutayaqqan. What is certain is that if you are alim and you are aware and you go without reason, it's a problem. But for example, jahil, it's not obvious. Nasi is not obvious. Let us see which one is better. قد يقرب الأول. The first position, which is to say these hadiths are mutlaq, sometimes it's articulated. Taqrib means to explain, to articulate in this way. بأن النهي في الأخبار لما كان إرشاديا فهو بحكم جملة خبرية تقديرها. In the hadith said, don't go out. Say this is irshadi, but it's like ikhbari, means you must not go out. It means there's a condition of staying there. So taqdir, although this is not mentioned in this way, it is mentioned as hukm irshadi, but it is like ikhbari, that إذا خرجت من المسجد بطل اعتكافك. If you go out of masjid, i'tikaf becomes void. خب in جمله خبریه means a statement, there is itlaq. Here also they want to say there is itlaq. وكما يمكن التمسك بإطلاق الجملة الخبرية فكذلك ما كان بحكمها. So if it is insha'i like nahy, but the meaning is like ikhbar, we can have itlaq here as well. خب Sheikh Irwani says no. فيه أن التعدي من الجملة الخبرية إلى ما هو بمثابتها فيه تأمل. تعدي means to go beyond, to extend what is about جملة خبرية like إطلاق to something that it is like جملة خبرية like نهي إرشادي, حكم إرشادي أمرا نهيا, to say it like إخبار. He says this is فيه تأمل, we have hesitation about it. لقابلية الخبرية للتقييد عرفا. If you remember, one of مقدمات حكمت was قابلية التقييد and then عدم التقييد. If there is possibility that the speaker mentions qaid, there is enough time and he can mention, there is no fear, etc. And although he can make modification and mention qaid, he doesn't do it. So you realize that there must be itlaq. If he had meant not itlaq, he should have restricted it. خب لقابلية الخبرية يعني لقابلية الجملة الخبرية للتقييد عرفا. You can restrict, you can modify جملة خبرية عرفا. And if you don't do it, then it means you didn't want it to be مقيد, you want it to be مطلق. فإذا لم تقيد الجملة الخبرية كشف ذلك عن الإطلاق. بخلاف الإنشائية التي هي بمثابة الخبرية لاستهجان التقييد فيها. این جمله في الجملة in جمله إنشائية it's مستهجن, it's it's not acceptable, not nice, it's like ugly in the views of Orf to do تقييد. For example, لا تخرج من المسجد إن كنت عالما. They don't speak like this. They say, for اعتكاف, don't go out of masjid. They don't say لا تخرج من المسجد إن كنت عالما, so that we say now that it has not been said إن كنت عالما, so it was general for عالم and جاهل. They don't speak like this. وعليه فاستفادة الإطلاق مشكل والقدر when there is no إطلاق, then we have to go for قدر متيقن. والقدر المتيقن بعد الإجمال, when there is no إطلاق means فالجملة, we don't know which one. ثبوت البطلان حالة العلم والالتفات. If we know that there are cases that are becoming void by خروج. what is قدر متيقن? When someone عالما عامدا goes out without عذر. This is قدر متيقن. حالة العلم والالتفات لا أكثر. طبعا العلم والالتفات with no استرار, because when you have you are mustar or mukrah also you go عالما, but that is excuse. Let us now go back to these three claims. One was about jahil, one about nasi, one was about mustar and mukrah. إذا عرفت هذا فلنرجع إلى الدعاوى الثلاث المتقدمة. The previously mentioned three claims. Last page just we started today with. ونقول أما الأولى. أولى was that it includes jahil as well. فوجهها واضح. وجه هذه الدعوى الأولى واضح. The reason for that argument for it is clear. Why? بناء على تمامیة المقتضی. این حکم we need مقتضی and عدم المانع. مقتضی for necessity of staying and not going out is for both alim and jahil. Mu'takif has to stay. The maximum you can say is to say that according to hadith rafd, رفع عن أمتي تسعة أشياء, one of them is jahl. You can say, okay, jahil is excused. غايته قد تدعى حكومة حديث الرفع على إطلاق الروايات. It has been maybe claimed, some people may claim, that hadith raf is hakim ala itlaq al-riwayat. So it's prioritized and preferred over itlaq al-riwayat if you accept itlaq. In ilm usul, you remember we had takhsis, we had taqyid, we had hukuma and wurud. Hukuma is something that that Sheikh Ansari Rizwanullah Ta'ala alayhi introduced. For example, hukuma can be for inclusion or exclusion. I give you a famous example you find in any book on hukuma. For example, we know that for salat we need wudu and tahara. Then a hadith says at-tawafus salatun. Tawaf is also salat. Although tawaf is not salat, but means it's like salat. So for tawaf also then we need wudu and tahara. So it includes tawaf into the rulings that we have for salat, unless proved otherwise. So here he wants to say حديث الرفع حاكم على إطلاق الروايات. إطلاق الروايات says عالم and jahil, no problem, they are the same, and if they go without عذر or fee, it's void. Hadith Raf comes and brings jahil out. Says no, jahil is different. لكنه مدفوع, but this istidlal, this taqrib is rejected. بأن الحديث يرفع جزئية تلك الفترة. Fatra with ta means duration, part. That part that he went out, hadith says, okay, that's not a problem. But this hadith doesn't say that the rest of a stay in masjid is supported by amr. So the amr for itikaf, amr istihbabi for itikaf includes that. Because you know, siha for ibadah needs to have amr, to have a command for it. Okay? Then for qurbatan Allah means for imtisal amr, you do it. So we say that part is not a problem, but first establish that the rest of it is enjoying a command, is response to a command. Where is the command for the rest? There was a command that this person has come out of it because there was a command for someone who does all the 3 days, for example. خب إن قلت, then if you say, okay, I have a counter example for you. You say, we cannot use hadith raf in such cases, but I show you a case in salat that fuqaha use hadith raf and this issue doesn't come there. إن قلت هذا يرد على رفع جزئية المشكوك في الصلاة. If something is doubted to be part of salat, for example, jalsatul istiraha, sitting after sajda before standing up, is it wajib or not? Suppose we have doubt. Ulama say that we can say if you do salat without jalsatul istiraha, it's fine. When you don't do jalsatul istiraha and you have doubt, the rest is fine. خب, this mustashkil says you are saying that we exclude jalsatul istiraha from wujub, and the rest remains wujub and part of ibadah which is commanded. Why in i'tikaf you cannot say we remove the part which is jahil has gone out, the rest remains? Sheikh Irwani says no, there's a big difference. When it comes to salat, we know that salat is anyway wajib. We assume that we have to do salat, and then when one part is not proved, for example, we leave that part aside. But i'tikaf, who said that for everyone i'tikaf is wajib? So if someone goes out without hajat, that is excluded, but the rest has to be remaining, the rest of i'tikaf, because i'tikaf is, for example, wajib anyway. So there is a difference. With respect to salat, we know that anyway salat is wajib, and even if this part is excluded, the rest is wajib. But maybe in i'tikaf, all are together. If you harm part of it, all of it goes. This is the ula, the first one. Amma thaniya. Thaniya was for nasi. You remember? Second claim was about Nasi. First was Adam and Jahil are the same. Second was that Nasi and Zakir are the same. Third is about Mustar and Mukrah and Mukhtar. خب about Nasi. ففل جواهر جواهر الأحكام, the late Sheikh Sahib Jawahir, Sheikh Najafi, he says أنه لا خلاف في عدم البطلان بالخروج سهوا. He said there is no اختلاف, no difference among ulama that if you go out sahwan, unintentionally, there is no problem. Why? للأصل. Asl in such cases means that unless it is proved otherwise, we should assume that the governing principle is that it's okay. وحديث رفع القلم رفع عن أمتي تسعة أشياء. One of them is about نسيان. The third, وانصراف ما دل على الشرطية إلى غيره. Those dalil, those references that indicate staying in the masjid and not going out except for hajat or fi. Okay, from them we understand that the staying there is condition. He says they have insiraf to other people, meaning not someone who forgets. And they say you must stay, and if you go out there is problem. Automatically our mind says the one who forgets is excused. انصراف ما دل على الشرطية إلى غيره, يعني غير الناسي غير الساهي ولو لاشتماله على النهي المتوجه إلى. For example, one reason for this انصراف can be says don't go out. To whom you say don't go out? To someone who is mindful. Shall I go? Shouldn't I go? But if someone, just forgets and goes, that's different. Shaykh Irwani says, first of all, asli here is not established. أن الأصل لا معنى له سوى حديث رفع النسيان. If you want to mean حديث رفع عن أمتي, which includes نسيان, that is already you mentioned, this is the second one. Because it says سهوا للأصل وحديث رفع القلم. If you mean حديث رفع القلم, then it's not something separate. If you mean, no, we have a kind of asl, that asl is adamun nisyan. Asalatu adamun nisyan. Asalatu adamun nisyan. That, for example, ahkam are for the people who are not forgetful. He says we don't have such an asl. وإلا فأصالة عدم النسيان لا وجود لها. We don't have such asala. What about hadith raf? Again, the same problem. Hadith raf cannot establish al-hadith raf'in la ithbat. لا إثبات. فكيف يثبت صحة الباقي or كيف يثبت صحة الباقي? How can the validity of rest be established, or how can hadith raf يثبت صحة الباقي? You can say that part which you forget, it's okay, don't worry about it, but it cannot say the rest has amr. And then you said انصراف, the same point as انصراف. الانصراف لا ينفع لأنه صحة الباقي لا تثبت من خلاله. You cannot understand that the rest, the issue is with the rest. The part that he forgot, he has excuse. But tell me that although his excuse is not going to be punished, why the rest is okay? Why the rest is still ma'murun bih? If there is no amr, then there is no ibadah, as you know. Whether it's wajib or mustahab needs amr. إلا أن يدعى استفادة كلا المطلبين من الأخبار. Unless you say no, we can argue based on the hadith that there is insaraf, or for example there is the way to establish asl, etc. أما الثالثة, which is the easiest one, about mustar, mukrah. Definitely this is one of the cases of khuruj for haja. أما الثالثة يعني دعوة الثالثة فإن الإكراه بالاضطرار من مصادیق الحاجة. What kind of حاجة؟ التي لا بد منها. Necessary حاجة. حاجة means need. خب. Even some people have said it's أولوية here. This is أولى, like for example لا تقل لهما أف. We said مفهوم موافق or أولى is that then you cannot hit them as well. قد يتمسك بالأولوية أيضا. How? One of the cases that for حاجة عرفي you can go out for اعتكاف is if, for example, a relative, a friend dies, you go for tashiyah, for funeral. Or someone is ill, they say you can go and visit. It's so important to visit the ill person. Here he's mustar. For example, he's ill and he has to go to doctor. Or he's mukrah, they say if you don't go out, we will kill you, or we will, torture you, for example. فإنه إذا جاز الخروج لتشييع جنازة أو عيادة مريض جاز الخروج إكراها أو اضطرارا بالأولى، يعني بالأولى يعني بطريق أولى بالأولوية. If it is permissible to go out for funeral or for visiting a person who is ill, then when you are mukrah, they are forced, or you are mustar, it's certainly okay. ثم إن صحيحة داوود المتقدمة ونحوها قيدت الحاجة بكونها مما لا بد منها. In صحیحه داوود ibn Sarhan, and similar to this صحیحه, it was said haja has to be necessary, inevitable, لا بد منها. In صحیحه Abdullah ibn Sinan, it was mutlaq. There was no qaid. If you want, I can tell you exactly where was it. You see on the screen on page 529, Sahihiyya Dawood ibn Sarhan is the first one, which said La lihajatin la budda minha. There is no choice, it's inevitable. In Sahih Abdullah ibn Sinan, it just says La yakhruju al-mu'takif min al-masjid illa fi haja. Doesn't say fi hajatin la budda minha. Any haja. When we put these two together, we realize that Sahih Abdullah ibn Sinan has to be modified under the light of Sahih Dawood ibn Sarhan. So even here must mean hajatan la budda minha. Okay, because muqayyad is awla with respect to mutlaq. Like khas is muqaddam ala al-am, muqayyad is also muqaddam ala al-am. خب إن صحيحة داوود المتقدمة داوود بن سرحان قيدت الحاجة بكونها مما لا بد منها بينما أطلقت صحيحة عبد الله بن سنان. Just said حاجة مطلق. ويلزم على القاعدة, according to the rules. Which rule here? The rule is تقديم المقيد على المطلق. يلزم على القاعدة تقييدها, يعني تقييد صحيحه, تقیید و صحیح عبدالله بن سنان به تلک به صحیح داوود. So the حاجة has to be لا بد منها. So with respect to استرار and اکراه there is no issue, it's very obvious. Okay, the next thing that we need to discuss, الجلوس تحت الظلال عند الخروج. When you go out, you should not sit under a shadow and delay your return to masjid for اعتکاف. الجلوس تحت الظلال عند الخروج. ويدل عليه صحيحة داوود الثانية. Other than Sahih Dawud ibn Sarhan that we mentioned, there is another, a second Sahiha from him, which reads as follows: كنت بالمدينة في شهر رمضان فقلت لأبي عبد الله عليه السلام إني أريد أن أعتكف فماذا أقول وماذا أفرض على نفسي. He says, I was in Medina in the months of Ramadan. What a great tawfiq they had to be in Medina in the months of Ramadan and be able to meet Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and ask him questions. So he said, I told Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, I want to do itikaf. What should I say and what should I make compulsory upon myself? Afrudu ala nafsi. From farida. Fard means wajib. Talabul ilm faridatun ala kulli muslimin wa muslim. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, according to this Sahih, has said, لا تخرج من المسجد إلا لحاجة لا بد منها ولا تقعد تحت الظلال حتى تعود إلى مجلسك. Don't go out of masjid except for a hajat that there is no choice, there is no alternative, it's necessary. And don't sit under shadows till you return to your place of itikaf, where you sit for itikaf in masjid. النهي في صحيحة الأولى عن مطلق الجلوس. In one hadith it says, don't sit. Doesn't say تحت الظلال. Here says, don't sit under shadow. So we can do, تقييد المطلق and say both then finally mean don't sit under shadow. So if you sit under heat, sunshine, it's okay. From this perspective, although you have not to go out without hajj. النهي في صحيحة الأولى عن مطلق الجلوس يقيد بما إذا كان تحت الظلال. Otherwise there's no problem. بمقتضى الجمع بين الصحيحتين. If you want to reconcile between the one which says don't go out of, don't sit outside masjid, mutlaq. The other one said don't sit under shadow outside masjid. So when we put them together, it means that don't sit under shadow. خب هذا خذ, take this. وقد يشكك في أصل عدم جواز الجلوس عند الخروج للحاجة التي لا. It's possible that someone can raise doubt about this whole issue, the whole idea that you cannot sit when you go for a hajah, that it's necessary. باعتبار أن لفظه, it said ثم قد يستفاد منه أن عدم جواز الجلوس هو بعد قضاء الحاجة لا في أثناءها. ثم means then. So if you go out and do what you had to do, and then afterwards, ثم, you sit under shadow without having any need, just to rest, this is a problem. But if when you go to do your hajjah, it's under shadow, for example, you go inside a building or in a tent, there's shadow. But the reason you are there is not to benefit from the shadow. The reason is you have to do something. Even there, if there was no shadow, you had to stay there anyway. So this is the issue. So maybe we can say this is for the time that there is no hajjah of not any stay under shadow is problem. No, when there is no hajjah. So if someone says then that you cannot sit in a general way outside, this is not fatwa because there is no enough evidence for that. It's ihtiyat. It's possible, and this possibility is considerable, so we shouldn't ignore it. But it's not wajib. It's to give fatwa. It's something for ihtiyat. Okay, alhamdulillah, we finished this. We have only, inshallah, one lesson left to finish Kitab al-Sawm. And we have only 3 pages, 2 and 1/3 of a page. Inshallah, we will finish inshallah next session. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.